Alright, so I'm making a video here for you guys. I'm going to try to give you a quick run through of the whole boat, basically just as it's floating after we've been sailing it for 8 months. So there's take a look at the bimini there, because I'm going to have Amy drop it while I show you the stuff on the anchor area. So there's that. You got a traveler on the cabin top. It's kind of a nice feature, keeps it out of the cockpit. At least we found it nice. What else is there to see back there? Got a boom jack, that's always good. Kicker, I don't know which one you call it exactly. Lines are led for both the jib halyard and the main halyard back to either side of the cockpit there where there's a winch. Anyway, I'll get more to that. So there's the hatch for the head. Big hatch over the V-berth. It's nice. We have a little prop on it here, which when you have the companionway doors open and that propped open, you always get a good breeze going through there, which is really nice. And even in heavy weather with breaking waves, we've never had water coming in when the hatch was shut. So obviously Hank-on jib, old school style. We got a teardrop jib bag, so you don't have to take the thing off every time. There's the pulpit. Let me push this aside. It's pretty mucky down here, but here's the setup that's kind of a pain about this boat, to tell you the truth. So we have basically the only way to store the anchor locker is this little tiny hole. So I couldn't figure out a way to get a roller that would actually hold the claw on it, so I basically just use this little roller for when I'm pulling it up or dropping it, and then I lead it over to here and tie it off and let it go out the chalk on whatever side. You might be able to attach something there, but I didn't really want to get into cutting up the deck or anything along that line, so you know, there's probably a better way to do it, but it just wasn't a big deal for me, so I went with it the way it was. Anyway, trying to give you a good look at this in case you're thinking about ways you could work around it. Running lights, mast light, they all work fine, but they're not LED, which I thought about upgrading to that, but now that we've been in Mexico with the sun all the time, we don't have any problem keeping our power topped up with the 130 watt solar panel. So you'll see here there's a big sculling oar and a couple paddles for the dinghy, but the sculling oar never really panned out. I thought it would work well, but we just throw the motor on, it's so easy. So you could just dump the sculling oar, I don't know. I kind of think it looks cool. Anyway, we had all the rigging checked by Schooner Creek about 6 months before we left, so probably getting close to 2 years, year and a half ago, and they thought it looked fine to them. Looking up here, I don't know if you can tell, we got a couple lights on the spreader, one pointing forward, one pointing back, in case you get in some weird stuff at night. You can throw that on and see what you're doing, but we haven't used them at all. Got the wind vane up there, mast light works like I said. This is a lazy jack system I set up where it actually works really well. I didn't want to get involved in too much crazy lazy jack action, so I just made my own thing where you untie it and give it a yank, and well, it's getting caught in the rigging because I have the sail cover on, but basically you got it up like a normal jack system, and you can drop the main. Yeah, there Amy's kind of demoing it. Anyway, you drop the main, and once you get it down, I just go ahead and grab these things. Sorry about that. Just go ahead and grab them and shove them under there. And voila. Not many ways for that thing to break. Sometimes the rope can get twisted every once in a while, and I just untie it and untwist it. Anyway, moving on. Let's see, anything about this? Oh, it's a 1972 Newport. 72 is supposed to be a pretty good year for fiberglass boats, from what I hear. We got a couple winches here for the sheets, for the jib. We got, that's the pulley for the Genoa, and one up there for the jib, obviously closer up. They're both adjustable. They're both pretty much the same on both sides. We got a place to put the GPS, the handheld GPS that we're throwing in. Compass works great. We got a little bag for tools, whatever you're going to need while you're on the way. The winch, one winch, you got to move that thing around. Depth meter, knot meter. We don't really use the knot meter. We just use the GPS and figure out how to trim our sails just by how things look usually. Anyway, what else do we got here? New tiller. The old one broke. It was all rotted because somebody wrapped the, well, they wrapped the old one because it looked bad in like a rope and it allowed it to rot. So the Bimini's dropped. It looks kind of frumpy right now, but it has a cover we throw on it, and then we have a little rope here. In case you're wondering what that thing is, it's just to hold the Bimini up. So anyway, we used to have a fixed Bimini system, but this seems to work better now because the when you drop it back at this angle, it stays out of the way of everything better. Here's the good old solar panel. We don't have to bother with tipping it or doing anything weird with it or angling it because it brings in plenty of power to run every single thing on the boat, including our laptop, basically all the time. So I'll have Amy demo the engine. This thing's pretty sweet. We know it's going to start every time. We don't even sweat it. And there it is. It's a monster. We've when the wind has died, we've been able to basically troll the thing at like 5 knots all day. Anyway, there's that. It's nice to be able to rely on, and also if you're a purist of sailing, you can so easily raise the thing, and then you're not dragging anything in the water. It's not an inboard prop, not your outboard, nothing. So, oh, speaking of, this is let me show you the tanks for this thing. So our cockpit system is huge down here. We've got these bags for extra ropes and stuff, and hopefully you can see down in here. Let me try to get the camera in here so it'll adjust. This is the main tank for the outboard, and this is the water tank. It's a 30-gallon water tank. We have a couple backup 5-gallon tanks for taking to the gas station and filling up if we ever have to. We just use the little dipper method to see how full the water is. The only thing between the water tank and the sink is an inline filter that just has to be replaced like once a year. I replaced it just a couple months ago. Now, let's see, anything else to see down here? There's one of the extra Danforths with a chain end line hooked up to it for a stern anchor. Whenever we want to use it, we just pull it out through the cockpit hatch, but there is a little port for it. That seems like more of a pain than anything to me. So the cockpit drains nicely. We've had some waves enter the boat. On one occasion we were in a big storm and we had breaking waves over the side, and that's the only time waves ever came in through the transom. So we've been riding up some pretty steep stuff and never had any worry about waves coming in through the transom. Let's see. There's a shore power thing that works fine. We have a shore power cord we're including. This side of the cockpit, we have more bag storage area. There's a little shelf here. Those are some external speakers. They're hooked up to the stereo. We throw all the stuff we're going to use all the time in that tub, and back behind that tub is the battery for the outboard, which is only used for the outboard, so you don't have to worry about draining it with your in-house power. Then there's just a bunch of storage down here. I don't know how well this is going to show. I'm going to try to demo that it's all open under there. So you don't get a quarter berth, but you do get a ridiculous amount of storage space, which we are big fans of because there's always a ton of stuff on a boat you just would rather not have to store in the cabin. So anyway, so we have actual doors on our companionway, unlike a lot of boats. Let me show you. You can lock it there, and the doors just lift right off. Voila. So when you're sailing, you just shove these things in the V-berth or whatever, and let's see. So there's a nice rug in here. Most boats don't include something like that. Let me show you underneath here. This is the bilge area, which never accumulates any water because we aren't sinking. And let me just show you, the switch does work. A couple times we overflowed the water tank when we were filling it, and it pumped out that. Let's see. So here's the boat interior. We've got a sink with a foot pump. You can see that works. Don't want to waste all of our water, but now back behind the galley, we installed this sweet shelf for tons of storage. And here's the ice box, which we just use to store more food. We haven't really been putting ice in it, but it does have a drain, so if you put ice in it, it would drain out. Also, to mention, I've replaced all the through-hole valves. That was one of the bad things about these Newports. They had plastic gate valves. I replaced them with the good bronze, like, quarter-turn valves, like you're supposed to. So the other side where that pull-out shelf is, in the galley side, is just a bunch of my electronic stuff thrown back there. There's the stereo. The fuse box is here. That's the back of the depth meter. The wiring in here is pretty wild, but we haven't really had